So yeah, welcome to the call, guys. So basically, we are going to be doing something very, very simple. I've created a demo app so that we don't take too much time over something really trivial, right? I've created a demo app, and then we are going to be following the repository pattern so that we're able to provide mock data to our UI. So basically, what we have here is a scaffold. Let me first of all remove this. So we have a scaffold, right? With an app bar and then a list view builder that just takes in a list tab with an item count of 20, right? Yes. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so is this section recorded?
Yes, I'm recording it already. So
Thanks.
we yes. Okay. So we have a list view builder with an item count of 20, right? To just show this basically, this is what we have, 0 to 19. So now what we're aiming to achieve is to paginate our data, right? Our data such that we are able to fetch in sequence, right, from our database, right? So here I have created a file called item repository, right? Firstly, I created a model class called item. It has a name, description, price, and image. And then I created another model called item response. So normally, when you are working with a database, right, if your backend is a very, very nice guy, it will give you, if you are working with like a paginated data, for example, your backend guy will give you the data itself and then the metadata, right, to whatever data it is that you have about the data. So for example, let's assume that you are fetching a list of posts, right? Let's assume that you are fetching a list of items, for example. Okay. So let's assume that you are fetching a list of items, for example, right? Your backend guy will give you the items and then give you the metadata. So metadata would include, it will include number one, total pages, for example. That's the total pages of the items that you have, the total items, then the current page. These are the things that would be inside the metadata normally, right? So based on this data that you have here, right, you are able to know when to fetch more from your backend or not, or know when to use infinite scrolling. So this thing is only covering for working with a normal backend REST API. It does not cover for Firebase actually. So now I have created a class, right, called class item, which is just like a model class, and then I've created another class called item response. So this item response basically has a list of items. It has the total items that we're getting from our database, right? It has the total pages of items in our database, and then it has the current page that we're on in our database. Please, if you don't understand to this point, please let me know if we don't understand to this point before we proceed. Okay, good. So now here I've created an abstract class, right, that returns that has just one method which we are going to implement, and the name of the method is fetch items, right? So it's going to take a page. Most times, in fact, all of the time when you are working with pagination, your backend developer would always request for page from you and then limits sometimes. Excuse me, depending on your backend developer, some request for limits, some do not. Some might set the limit to be, let's say, 30 by default or 20, right? So now I created a method now, right, to let me just do something. I want to quickly remove something so that we don't get confused. So I created an implementation for our class, right? And then, sorry, let me remove this to just start from scratch. So I created an implementation, right, to fetch items. It takes in the page limits. I believe that we understand to this point, right? Because this is our class item repository implementation that implements this item repository so that we're able to like provide a concrete implementation for this thing. So because we are working with a local data, right, we don't have a database connected. So I'm just trying to like mock out the scenario. So I'm creating a mock data here, and then it's just a list of items, and I'm saying it's like list. I'm generating it with list.generate, and then I'm setting the limit to be the number of items. So for example, if our limit is 30, it means the number of our items here will be 30, and then I'm just returning an item model here. Now remember that this method is supposed to return the item response object. So I'm setting the items to be these items that I created here, and then I'm saying that okay, the total of our items is 100, right? And then total pages is 10. Okay, so let's set total pages to be 5, for example, so that we'll set our limit to be 20, so that will be 5 pages, and then our current page now will be this page that we are getting from our user outside. So it means that our page will be 0 by default. So page 0 is going to return this, right? And then once it gets to page 1, we are going to do more. So now we now want to increase, the what's it called, the number of our page. Our page is equal to 0 by default, right? And what it means is that when we scroll to the bottom like this and we attempt to fetch more, right, it means our page is going to increase by 1. So it means 0 plus 1 will become 1. So if our page becomes 1, we cannot still return this thing. So we want to increment increments the value. So let's just say that, okay, if I'm coming, so let's just say, okay, we're going to now generate more items, and then we're going to say it is just okay, so we're going to generate excuse me, we're going to generate more items, right? And then I'm going to check that, okay, if I'm going to use the switch expression here, right, that if our page, right, is if our page is, let's say, less than 5, right, return items. Yeah, when it is true, just return items. That means this is the initial data. Else, if it's not, return more items. So what this means is that it's going to return more items like this, right? So now this is basically what we have in this repository, right? So we're now going to be going to our notifier. So I created a very basic state notifier class. This is how it's just something very basic. This is, I'm using Riverpod as state management, for example. So I'm just going to create a state notifier, and then I'm going to call it home notifier, right? And then I'm going to say that, okay, this thing now, firstly, we need something to manage our state such that when it is loading data, our user is able to see that. So we're going to create a final, and then I created an enum here, sorry. I called it enum load state. So we have loading, we have loaded, we have error, we have fetch more, and then we have completed. So loading is to indicate that, okay, we are just loading new data fresh. Loaded means it has loaded successfully, right? Error means that, okay, there's an error from our DB. Fetch more means, okay, we are trying to fetch more by scrolling to the bottom of the screen. And then completed means that, okay, we have scrolled to the end of our page. Remember that the maximum page here, right, is 5, which is the total page. So the moment our page that will be passing into this method here, the moment this page becomes 5, right, our load states will become completed, because of course there's no data anymore to fetch from the backend. If we don't understand up to this point, please let me know if there's any confusion. I'm trying to ensure that we don't take more than 1 hour on this call, so that's why I'm a little bit fast. Sorry if I'm too fast, please let me know so that we don't miss the whole point of the call itself. Okay, I hope everybody can hear me though.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I want to know that I'm not just talking. Yeah, so now we're going to be creating a load state, right? A load state variable, which we are going to be using to handle our state, right? And then we're going to be creating another field called final item response, right? Item response. So we're going to be passing this into the constructor, right? And then we're going to be saying that, okay, this is going to be nullable because initially our item response, we don't have anything, so it's going to be nullable. So what I created this factory initial for is just to be able to pass an initial state to our state notifier. Remember that in Riverpod, you always have to have an initial state for whatever state you are trying to provide. So I could have as well just done this, right? I could have as well just done this and then say, okay, my load state is load state dot loading, right? And then my item response is now. I could have as well just done this, but imagine that I have plenty data inside my home notifier state. It means all of this space will be crowded, which is not what we want. So, and since factory method provides the instance of that our class, that is why I prefer to use the factory instance. So, and also we are going to then be doing, let's say we are going to also have a state called idle, right, when it's not doing anything. So I just want to say that our load state by default is load state dot let's set it to loading. Reason is because the moment you first come to this page, is going to load the data. So we are setting the initial lifestyle, life to be loading, right? And then this is not going to be required because of course it's nullable. So, and and then we're going to create a copy with method. This copy with method is what we'll be using to update our states, right? So I'm just going to do this, and excuse me, sorry, I'm just going to do this, and we should be good. Yeah, so this copy with method is just basically checking that, okay, when we want to update our state, or if the load state, our new one that we're passing in, if it is null, just give us the whatever value that was inside our load state object before. The same thing with the item response. Simple. Do we need any clarification on that? Is there anything confusing before we move? Okay. So now let's not come back to this what's it called method. So one thing we will now do is that we are going to create a method, right? It's going to be a feature of type void, because we will not be returning anything from here. Since we are managing a state, we are going to be calling it fetch items, right? And then it's going to be an async function, because of course it's a feature. Now we're going to inject our our item repository here, right? Sorry, item repository here. This works very well because of the case of testing, actually. So that's why it's better to inject it, and sometimes it's always better to use constructor injection. Item repository, sorry, this dot. So I'm just going to inject this here. So we're now going to be saying that, okay, we're going to be using our try catch block, and then we're going to say final response, right, equal to await item repository dot fetch items. And then our page now, right, we're going to create a page and say this, sorry, let's just set our limit to be 20 by default here. And then we're going to create our page, right? Our page by default is going to be state.itemResponse.current page. Remember that there's a current page here inside this item repository, right? Which is the page that we're passing in. So what it means is that when our if our current page, which is inside this our state, if it is null, just set it to 0 by default like this. So we're then going to be passing that page inside. So we're now going to say that, okay, states. So we're going to say that final load state now equal to we're going to say switch, right? And then we're going to say that if page now, or in fact, before we do that, let's go back to our item repository, and then let's say that inside this item response class, we're going to create a getter, a boolean getter. We'll get his last page, right? And then we're going to say that our current page equal to our total pages. Remember that our total pages here is 5, but so we're then going to say that, okay, if response dot his last page, right, it means that when it is true, it means that our load states now, okay, sorry, I forgot to do something here. So we're going to do states here equal to, okay, no, we're not going to do that because our state is load state or loading by default. So we're going to say that, okay, if our response dot is last page, that means we're already at the last page. Sorry, let me make changes to this. We're already at the last page, right? It means we're done. So we're going to say that, okay, our load state will be load state dot completed, right? Else now, we're going to say that our load state is loaded, basically. So, but since we are not working with the backend here, normally, if you are using, for example, something like Dio, right, you would have written a try catch inside this method to try and catch your Dio response. And what I like to normally do when I'm working with a properly structured backend is to create a response object. For example, it could be something called app response, right? It could be called class app response, right? And then I will do final bool status, right? Or let's say bool successful, right? And then I'll just do let's say data, t data, and then this is going to be an API response of type T, right? And then I'm just going to create a constructor for this, right? So what I would normally return is this API response class, such that when I wrap this in my try catch, right, and let's assume that I'm using something like deal, for example, and I'm going to check for deal error, right? And then when this thing is successful, so just hold on, let's do something. let's just copy the whole of this so that you get an understanding of what I'm trying to do. Let's cut the whole of this and move it into our try block, right? We'll move our weights outside of our try block, right? And then let's say that we are going to be, this now is going to be a feature of type app response of type item response now, right? So we're going to just replace this with this, and we're going to do this. So let's assume that we'll have this here now. So we're going to be returning app response here, app response, right? Successful now is going to be true here because inside our try block, right, everything works fine, right? Let's assume that our try block now, nothing is wrong with it, and then this is going to be our data, right? And then this is going to be app response of type item response, right? And then inside, for example, let's assume that we are using deal, for example. I'm going to be removing this because we're not using, so let's just do catch e, right? And then we're just going to return an app response, and then we're going to set successful to be false, right? And then we're going to, let's say, okay, we want to also return an error message to final string error message, right? And then we're just going to create this here, and then we're going to say error message is, something went wrong, right? So this is it basically. If you understand what I just did, can you give a thumbs up? Okay, so only 2 people understand. Amazing. If you don't understand what I did, can you give a thumbs down? You people are not on the call though. Hey God. Okay, who else does not understand? Okay, so it means we have only 3 people on the call. Okay, that's good. I'm going to go back to explaining again. So which part do you not understand this time, so that we can go over it? Which part of do you not understand? Destiny.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Chief.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Now, okay, so when I came to the class, I didn't quite start from the beginning,
Okay.
but I got to understand to some extent. Let's go over to the the notifier class.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, this fetch items. That's why I got lost.
Oh, okay. Don't worry.
Because
okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, because from what I think I understand here, you're trying to get a response from the fetch items by the page and the limits.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So now we are going to go back to here. So this item repository, basically, we are trying to mock a scenario of when you are working with a backend, for example. And what I like to do is return a template class like this, such that I'm able to deduce if my network request was successful or not. So if it's successful, this is true. If not, it is false. So we're just doing a normal try catch here. Inside our try, it is successful, right? And then inside our catch, it is false. So it means something went wrong. We did not get our data, right? So we're now going to be coming back to our notifier class. And now the essence of this notifier class is to help us fetch items, and then also, fetch more from that our database, using pagination. So the first page that we have is just a list of 20 items, and then our initial page is 0, right? So, and then I made mention that, okay, the moment we fetch that our our data, right? When we are fetching it, it is loading, right? Because we need to show a loading indicator to the user. And then once it is loaded now, we will now check that if our our database, if we're already in the last page of our database, right, it means that we have gotten to the last page. So if we have gotten to the last page, it means our load state is completed. So we want to just complete this this whole action, and then don't allow the user fetch more data the moment they get to the bottom of the screen. But if not, we are just going to set to loaded, and then we are going to be able to fetch more. So now I hope we got it to that point. So we're now going to be doing state now equal to state dot copy width. I explained that this copy width method is used to what's it called, is used to update the value of our state, right? So also we're going to be getting our value here, final data now will be equal to, we're also going to be using a switch expression here. So we're going to be saying if so we're going to be passing a boolean variable here. We're going to be calling it bool fetch more, right? And then we're going to be setting it to false, right? And then we're going to be checking here that, so this variable basically we're using it to check if we're trying to fetch more when we get to the bottom of our page compared to trying to get it from the initial. You know, when we're trying to get it when we get to our page for the first time, we're not trying to fetch more. So this will be false by default. So we're going to be checking that, okay, if we're trying to, you know, fetch more, right, it means that we're trying to add new data from the database into what we have in our state before. So if this is true, right, we're now going to be saying our data will be equal to, we're going to be using the spread operator, right, to add our data here. So we're going to be using the spread operator like this, and then we're going to be first taking the item response dot items inside the state first. We're going to be adding it. Then we're now going to be adding the new response dot data that is coming. Do we understand what just happened here? Yes, please.
Yes, boss.
Okay, everybody understands. Good. So now that is when it is true. That's when we are fetching more. But if we are not fetching more now, right, we are just going to be returning response.data.items. That is all, right? So we're now going to be saying that our load state here now will be equal to load state, and then items will be equal to data this way. So oh sorry, our item response, yeah, that's true. Okay, so let's say that we have let's say this. Okay, let's just say that we have a list of final list of type items, right? And then we're going to do required list dot items, and then we're going to set items to be an empty list by default, and then we're also going to pass it into our copy with method, right? List items, and then this is going to also be here. So now we're going to be saying that, okay, our item equals to data, and then our item response equals to response dot data, like this. So when we have catch e, right? Oh yeah, I forgot to also mention that the essence of creating this class, this app response class, is to know if it's successful or not. So we are going to be first making a check here that if our response now does successful equal to false, right? Okay, it's not nullable, so we can just basically do this. Let's just say, okay, we want to throw our error message response, right, dot error message, right? And then we're just going to be making a check here that, okay, if it's no, just throw something went wrong, right? I'm still going to be doing this one step after the other. Okay, so and then here now we're now going to be catching the error that, okay, state equals to state dot copy with low state equals to low state dot error, right? And then there's really no need to show any error message now, because this is just like a demo app basically. So now that we have this, right, we remember I said we are going to inject our item repository, right? But since we are using, okay, anyways, let me do it this way. So if you are building like a much larger app, you can use providers as service locator tools, right? So we're just going to be calling this item repository, and then it will be a provider, and then it's going to return item repository implementation. So here we can just come here and say that let me name this ref so that we're not confused, and then we're just going to say ref.read the item repository that we just created just now. So this is going to help us inject our item repository. It's going to help us locate it and then inject it into this class. I believe we understand what is going on here. So now from here, let's now go to our UI, and then in our init state now, we're going to change this to a consumer stateful widget, because we need access to the ref object, right, to be able to access our notifier. So let's just change this to a consumer stateful widget, and then inside our init state now, we're now going to be saying that, okay, ref.read our home notifier then get dot fetch items, sorry, and then it's going to be this way. So now this is going to fetch our items for us. So let's also just include something here as a loading indicator. So we're just going to say switch expression on the body, and then we're going to say that, okay, final, let's say state equals to ref.watch home notifier, right? And then we're going to say that switch state dot, load state. Now when it is load state loading, right? Loading, what am I doing? Yeah, we are going to be returning a circular, okay, center child circular progress indicator, right? And then when it is error, we're going to be returning a child center that says something went wrong. And then else, now we're going to be returning our list view builder now, right? And then we're going to be saying that this, and then we're also going to check that when states dot, sorry, I'm gonna do this, that when states dot items, right, dot is empty, just return a text that says no items found, right? Else just return this for us. Basically, if you don't understand what this when keyword is or what I did here, you can watch one of the videos I posted on YouTube to know how to use this when keyword, basically. So now here our item count is now going to be changed to state dot items, right, dot length, and then our list style. So we are going to have an item here. It's now going to be state dot items at index, and then we're going to have a list style, and then the title is going to be item dot name, subtitle item dot description, leading image dot network, this, right? Now that we're set, let us restart our app. I've done quite a lot, and let's see where we are. Okay, let me see. The argument type list dynamic can be okay. Let's see, there's an error here. Let's try to debug what it is. Give me a second. There's an error somewhere. Home notifier line 3316. Okay, let's see where the issue is coming from. There's an error somewhere. List dynamic can be assigned to the type of list item. Okay, so the issue is most probably coming from here. Okay, list of type item, data item. Okay, let's see where that is coming from. Line 33, right? Column. Okay, list is from that core. Okay. I'm coming. Let me stop building this. Let me reload my page, and then let's see where the error is coming from, if I'm able to pick it. Okay, everything seems okay. Give me a second. No problems have been detected on the workspace. Okay. Let's try to build this then. Hopefully there are no issues. Okay, the argument type list dynamic can be assigned to the type of list item. Okay, just give me a second. Give me a second. Let's see if this is what's okay. Let's see. Hopefully this is what is causing the issue. If maybe that needs us to do this. It was pointed to line 33. Okay, yes, that was what caused the issue. So you needed us to you needed us to specify the type of list that was set in here when it's empty. So one thing that we also forgot to include in our main.dat is to wrap our main app with a provider scope widget, right? So I'm going to wrap this with provider scope, and then we're going to restart our app and then see where we are, right? Sorry, I'm going to have to rebuild this. It's taking a while. So yeah, let's rebuild and we should be good to go. Okay, good. Yeah, so you can see now that we have successfully gotten our items. Now what we would now want to work on now is our pagination, right? When we scroll to the bottom of the screen. So one thing that I love to use mostly is to use the notification listener widget, right? So I'm just going to wrap our item builder inside the notification listener widget, right? And then the child is going to be our list view builder, right? Now there is a parameter here called on notification, right? And then it takes in so this notification listener, right, takes in a type. Sorry. It takes in a type, right? And then we're just going to call this of type scroll notification, because of course we want to check when we scroll to the bottom of our screen, right? Notification, when we scroll to the bottom of our screen, will just give us this thing. So one thing we will first of all print out is print our notification dot metrics, right, dot extend after, right? That's one thing we'll first of all print. And also we're just going to be returning through here, right? And when we return through here, we'll see that if you hover over this, it says that return true to cancel the notification bubbling, return false to allow the notification to continue to be dispatched to further ancestors, right? So since we don't have any ancestors, so we're just going to return through here, right? So now if we try to scroll now, right? Let's see if we try to scroll, and then sorry, I've not saved this. So let's just try to, now you guys can see that while we are scrolling, if you check my debug console here, right, you can see that it's printing some things outside for us while we scroll to the top, when we scroll to the bottom. So now if you guys notice that the moment we scroll to the bottom, this thing starts to print 0, right? Now it means that this 0 signifies that okay, we're at the end of the items inside our list. So but if you guys see it, the moment we scroll, right, it's printing it like about 52 times. So if we go ahead to try and implement pagination now, it means that it's going to call this in 52 times, which is not what we want. So the first thing is we are going to check now is to check that if this our notification, right, is scroll end notification, it means that this scroll end notification is like to check if a notification has stopped scrolling. Scroll start notification means okay, it has started, right? Now we're now going to print this thing. So if we print this now, let's just save, and then when I now go ahead now to, you will see that it's not printing it 52 times anymore. It is only when the what's it called, viewport stops scrolling. Can you guys see? So it means that we have something to use now. So we're now going to check that okay, if our notification is scroll end notification, right, and our notification.metrics.extend after is equal to 0, right, is equal to 0, right, then we're going to print this. So now let's see. You see that while we're scrolling here, nothing is happening, but when we scroll to the bottom, let's see, you guys can see that it prints 0.0 here. Let me do this again. Can you see it just printed 0.0? So it means we have a way out. So now what we're now going to do is that once this happens, we're now going to do ref.read home notifier dot fetch items, and then we're going to set fetch more to be equal to true. Now remember that here we have said that okay, final page equal to state dot item response dot current page, right, which is equal to 0. So now we now need to do one thing. We're going to do here now is just to do a var. We're just going to change this to var, and then we're going to do something that if we're fetching more, right, if fetch more, right, we're going to do page plus equal to 1, which means we are incrementing the count by 1, right? And then we're now going to say that okay, also if we are fetching more, right, we want to set our states to be what's it called, load more, right? So we're going to do state equal to state dot copy width, right? Load state dot fetch more, beautiful. And then I'm just gonna say that okay, this is where we're at now. And then else if I'm not fetching more, right? Else if I'm not fetching more, I'm just going to say that our page equal to, in fact we don't even need to put any else statement, because of course this is already at 0. So I'm just going to say that okay, if this is fetch more, this, and then so we're just going to restart, and then let's now try to fetch more. So now also in our own UI, we're going to be wrapping our list view the builder, let's say inside the column, for example, column, and then we're just going to make a check here that if our state dot load state equal to load more, load state dot load more, right? Fetch more, sorry, I'm just going to show a circular progress indicator here, right? So let's just that's an overflow error because we didn't do something, we didn't wrap our list view builder in an expanded widget. So let's just wrap this in an expanded widget and we should be good to go. Yeah, so now if we scroll to the bottom now, let's just change the let's also add a padding around this, padding, let's say 30, right? And then let's just negate this and then let's see what it shows. So you guys can see that it's showing something here that it's loading, right? So we're just going to set this to be equal to fetch more. So now let's restart our app and then let's try to fetch more data. So we have fetched the first set of items. Let's go to the bottom. Now you guys can see that it's fetching more, and then can you see now that we're having more items here, right, at the bottom? And then can you guys see it? So now there seems to be something wrong with our logic. Let us see. Data.items, okay, if fetch more equals to true. So let's try to do something. Let's try to use our breakpoint to debug this, because normally this is supposed to be supposed to return it's supposed to return more items, right? So this is supposed to be more item as a name, and then let's see, total items 100, total pages 5, current page is page. So if our page is less than 5, we return items, else we return more items. So let's just try to do something. Okay, let's go to the bottom now. It's fetching more, and so if our fetch more is true, we are going to do state.items here. Oh, okay. Let's just do state.items, right? And I'm just gonna do with response.data.items. Let's just try to check our response.data.items. Let's see data. Let's see our items. Item description 0. Okay, that's not supposed to be what it is. Okay, yes. So description. Oh, okay. It's the description that was showing, not the name. Sorry. Let's just show the. Okay, the title is the name. Okay, description. Okay, good. So it means that our item, something is wrong inside our repository. Let us check. Let's use our breakpoints to check, and then let us restart. So here now, if our page is less than 5, return items, right? Which is this. Else, return more items. Okay, so this is okay. So now let's try to scroll to the bottom, and then let us see. Okay, our page. Oh, okay, because our page is less than if our page is greater than 0, greater than sorry, if our page is greater than 0 now, right, it should return more items. Sorry, else now it should just return items. So yeah, I think this should work. Let's see, and let us restart. Okay, this is taking a while to restart. We have how many minutes more? 15 minutes more. I hope you guys are with me.
Yes, boss.
Okay.
James, you man.
I don't know why why this is taking long to restart. Let me just stop this and let me review the app again. I'm just going to go ahead to review the app and okay, so let us see what we get. Okay, so we are getting this now. So if we do what's it called now, let's just put another breakpoint here, and then let's just try to scroll, and then let's see what our page is. Our page is 1 now, so it means it's going to return more items for us. So let's just press play and then go ahead. So you guys can see now that we have more item 0, then 1, which is our current page, this way. And then let's just remove this breakpoint so that we'll have a smooth experience. And then when we scroll again to the bottom, it fetches more, right? And then it gets for page 2 for us. You can see for page 2. And then when we scroll to the bottom, it fetches more and gets for page 3. And then when we scroll, it fetches more, gets for page 4, and then gets for page 5. And then now we now also need to make a check here now inside this our class, that if if fetch more, right? So let's just make a quick check that if we are trying to fetch more, right, and states dot dot item response dot is last page, right? Let's just put our return keyword here so that it stops it stops the execution here. Sorry, we need to wrap this inside the braces, right, this way. And then if this is the case now, right, let's just put the return keyword here so that it stops the execution here the moment we are trying to fetch more, and then we have already gotten to our last page. We just need to stop. So now if we take a look at this now, right, and let me just give me a second. I'm trying to see if we can increase. Okay, let's just do something. Let's just go ahead now, try to increase this, and then you guys can see that now, because we have gotten to our last page, this thing is not doing anything. So we have gotten to the end of our data now. So ladies and gentlemen, we have successfully implemented what pagination looks like. So you guys can see we're fetching more data. You guys can see we're fetching more data for page 2, we're fetching more data for page 3, and then that way for page 5, right? And then that way you guys can see that I've gotten to the end of our data. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope with these few points of mine I've been able to convince you and not confuse you that Flutter can be hard sometimes, but God is greater in it. So guys, do we have any questions? Do we have any questions before we call it a day? You guys can see that we have 10 minutes more. So do I have any questions? Okay, I want to assume that we do not have questions. So thank you very much guys for joining the call. I hope you guys have been able to learn something here. So this call was recorded and then it's going to be uploaded to the Flutter Benders YouTube channel. So once it's uploaded, I will share it on the group, inside our community group on WhatsApp, and then everybody can always go back to watch it. This is probably going to be our class for this week. So thank you very much guys for joining, and I hope to see you guys soon. And Emmanuel that is just still coming in, at least you met the grace. So at all na in bad pass, you met the grace. All right guys, so I'm just going to